we find ourselves at the pivotal moment of the Battle of Gods saga. The moment when the Super Saiyan God ritual was being performed so that Goku could obtain that form and offer Beerus the fight he desired. The mere ritual unleashed so much power that it was altering time and reality itself around everyone participating in the ritual, even starting to open dimensional rifts unintentionally, similar to how Super Buu Gohan did it by screaming in his respective saga against Super Vegito. These dimensional rifts would be so disorienting to the very structure of the Dragon Ball universe that from one of these rifts, someone would be brought to Goku's universe and his friends from a distant dimension far from everything that comprises the 12 universes and multiple timelines of Dragon Ball as a franchise in general. And by the time the ritual was over, it would not be Goku's appearance or power, which they couldn't even feel, that would surprise everyone, but rather the appearance of a completely unknown young man who had appeared out of nowhere there, in the circle of Saiyans who had just performed the ritual. Where am I? Who are all of you? No one would know how to answer the young man, and although everyone wanted to obtain more information about who he was, Beerus, the god of destruction, cared little or nothing about the appearance of this stranger, insisting that Goku refocus on the pending fight they had. Come on, Saiyan, stop fooling around and wasting time with insignificant things like the appearance of that kid. We have a battle between gods to fight, and I want to see the power of that Super Saiyan God already. With the Saiyan having no choice but to start the fight, even though he too wanted to know more about the boy who had appeared during his ritual to obtain the Super Saiyan God form. And so, despite the strange and uncomfortable situation, while Goku and Beerus began their fight as in the original story, the young man would have to introduce himself to the other warriors, finally revealing who he was. My name is Ben Tennyson, the greatest and most well-known superhero in the universe. Confused by such confidence about his reputation, Gohan, the hybrid Saiyan, would respond in confusion. Excuse me, but I'm also a superhero in my free time, and I've never heard of you in my life. Ben would be surprised, with his ego taking a hit for it, finding it hard to believe that there were still people on Earth who didn't know him. Speaking of which, this is Earth, right? Of course we're on Earth. That seems pretty obvious. I don't know, it looks like Earth. But at the same time, although I can't put into words what I feel, it doesn't quite feel like the Earth I know. It's very strange. What did you say your name was? Gohan. Son Gohan. Little by little, Ben would start getting to know his new friends better, and although Whis pretended to be only interested in what was happening in the fight between Goku and Beerus, he was actually very focused and closely observing the young man who had appeared during the ritual, wondering who he might be, feeling in him a strange key of a completely foreign nature compared to what can be perceived in the rest of the living beings of the 12 universes of Zeno-sama. Whis began to consider multiple possibilities and theories about why the young man appeared during the Super Saiyan ritual, but for now, he would keep these suppositions to himself. Eventually, Ben would have to receive a very accelerated summary of who they all were, their histories, the Saiyans, and so on, being very surprised to have never heard in the plumber's database about Saiyans, or Namekians, or even a god like Beerus. Simply everything was very strange, even for him. And everything would become stranger when Gohan revealed to him that the guy in the orange kimono, with reddish hair, fighting against Beerus, was none other than the father of his new friend, a certain Son Goku. And speaking of the Saiyan raised on Earth, he was already reaching his limits during the fight against Beerus, and moreover, since they had lost some time due to Ben's appearance after the ritual, his time as a Super Saiyan God had ended a little earlier than in the original story, with Beerus putting a lot of pressure on the completely diminished Saiyan and losing his divine essence, saying to end the fight, launching a gigantic supernova threatening to destroy Earth. It seems that Lord Beerus is done playing with your friend. Now he's going to destroy Earth as I see it. What? What do you mean destroy Earth? Is that cat really that powerful? Oh, be careful how you refer to him. And yes, of course he is. Destroying Earth is nothing. He could destroy the universe if he wanted to. That information would shock everyone, but much more so Ben, who rarely had to confront beings in his career as a hero with the power to destroy the universe. Damn it! If that god cat is gonna destroy Earth, someone must stop him! We can't do anything. If my father couldn't defeat him, then it's the end of everything. I don't think so. I'm not gonna give up that easily. It's hero time. And then, to everyone's surprise and confusion, the young man would start manipulating the watch he had on his left wrist, with everyone thinking it was just a stylish adornment watch. But to everyone's surprise and impact, the young man would transform into a being completely different from a normal human, shouting the name of his form loud and clear: Atomics! Although I'm starting to consider the possibility that this world is not the one I come from, I still won't allow a villain to destroy this Earth without doing something about it. And to everyone's surprise, Atomics would fly at great speed towards the limits of Earth's atmosphere, with Goku about to give in to Beerus' sphere, no longer able to hold it any longer. But then, Atomics would appear and without much difficulty, absorb the energy of the sphere, channeling it with his powers to redirect all that energy and cancel Beerus' attack, something that would surprise both, besides wondering who that strange being was who just helped Goku. Well, I didn't expect that. And who are you? I don't recognize which race you belong to, but you look a bit like a metal man. I'm the kid who appeared out of nowhere after that older guy over there obtained his red hair with a fiery aura. What? How is that possible? Wow, you really are the same kid? I can't believe it. That's right. Where I come from, I'm a superhero who saved the universe multiple times from threats like that God Cat, and I won't let him endanger Earth, even if it's a different Earth from the one I know. Did you just call me God Cat? Damn delinquent. I'll teach you good manners and how not to insult a god of destruction like me. Out of nowhere, Beerus would quickly and brutally attack Atomics, completely overpowering and disorienting him with Beerus' enormous physical power, causing immense pain from the beating he was receiving. Meanwhile, Goku, exhausted and on the verge of fainting, would gather the few remaining forces to return to Earth with the others, unable to help that boy. But also, for some reason, Goku had a feeling that he could trust that boy, that he hadn't yet shown all his power. And so it would be, as eventually, Ben, feeling completely overpowered and seeing that Atomics didn't have the physical power to withstand Beerus' beating, would have no other option but to transform into Alien X. You left me no choice but to use my most powerful alien, Alien X. What the hell? I've never seen a race like that, but the power, the immense divine power emanating from him. The very nature of his ki is now comparable not to a destroyer, but to an angel. How the hell is that possible? It's over, anorexic cat. Celestial sapiens are among the most powerful beings in existence. You won't win. And so the fight between Ben and Beerus would resume. Now, Ben in his Alien X form would completely dominate the destroyer, gradually increasing more and more his power. But it was sheer madness. No matter how much power he used, that boy with the form he called Alien X was able to keep up without any issues. However, Ben did not feel as comfortable in Alien X as he usually did since he gained full control of that form. Not because his voices has returned to debate in his head about every minor action, but because, for some reason, he was unable to access his reality-altering powers, all the techniques and abilities that Alien X could perform with his imagination. For some reason, he could only use the physical power of Alien X, his strength, speed, and basic energy manipulation attacks. And even that energy looked different than when Ben was used to. Unbeknownst to him, being in a multiverse entirely different from his own, with different physical laws and rules, all the reality-altering powers of Alien X were useless in this world. He could only use this alien for pure combat, but little else. Moreover, his celestial sapien form was progressively adapting and changing to the new type of dominant energy in this world. Without realizing it, he began to use ki, and not normal ki, but divine ki. Ki worthy of an angel's purity. That was why Beerus felt so intimidated and scared. The fight continued to escalate to absurdly high power levels for the comprehension of anyone observing, or rather feeling the fight, except for, of course, Whis, who could clearly experience serious concern at the mysterious and unexpected power of that boy in his multiple transformations. Surprisingly for the angel, realizing that in fact Beerus stood no chance. Little by little, Alien X's body would adapt to the physical laws and logic of the Dragon Ball universe, and although he couldn't use his different reality-altering powers, his physical power kept increasing without equal, proportional to how much ki he was using. Eventually, the power would be so great that not even Beerus could keep up, being brutally beaten and unable to defend himself, with the universe and even the other universes trembling like never before from such a brutal display of power that not even a god of destruction could rival, maybe not even the 12 destroyers together. But before the multiverse completely collapsed and higher entities like Daishinkan and Zenosama intervened in what was happening, Whis would move at full speed in the void of space where they were, stopping the lethal blow that Alien X was about to deliver to finish Beerus off. This surprised the alien, and although Whis would try to hide it, he was also surprised. Although he could stop Alien X's punch, he did it with great difficulty, and his hand even hurt from doing so. Nonetheless, Whis would compose himself and try to reason with Ben.
Young man, I believe you don't realize the catastrophic consequences that Lord Beerus' death would bring. Without a god of destruction, the balance of the universe would be completely disrupted.
Relax, I wasn't going to kill him, just knock him out permanently to take him into custody with the plumbers.
Plumbers? I'm surprised you haven't realized it yet, young man, but I believe the Super Saiyan God ritual brought you from another dimension. You are no longer in the world you used to know.
Wow, you may be right. Since I arrived here, even with Alien X, I can't use all the powers I would normally access, nor the information necessary to understand any fact in the universe if I wanted to. It's as if Alien X had become an alien purely for fighting and hitting very, very hard, and nothing else.
Alien X? I presume that's the name you gave to this form of yours, just like the previous one was called Atomics, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. It's probably my most powerful transformation. Honestly, I couldn't say for sure. I have like 1,000,000 transformations that I haven't even discovered yet.
Fascinating. How about we return to Earth to talk about all this?
And what about the grumpy cat there, half dead?
Don't worry, I'll take care of it.
And so, Whis and Alien X would return to Earth at full speed from several light years away, with the Angel carrying an unconscious and near-death Beerus, which was still quite an amusing situation for the Angel. Eventually arriving on Earth, Ben would revert to his human form, having exhausted all the time he had to stay transformed. Whis would heal Beerus, with the Destroyer awakening from his coma, confused and embarrassed by the humiliating defeat he had suffered. His pride and confidence in himself and his power had been completely destroyed and questioned, realizing that he could no longer impose his conditions. But once the tensions calmed, both sides would understand that they didn't need to be enemies. On the contrary, they could be great allies, with Beerus even seeing beyond his defeat, thinking excitedly that maybe that boy who came to this world out of nowhere could be his true rival. No, his goal. A goal that, as a destroyer, he could aspire to surpass. Regaining a motivation in his training that he hadn't had for eons. Beerus would propose to the Saiyans and Ben to go train with him on his planet. While the Saiyans accepted, Ben didn't care about those things. He didn't need to train, he already had all the alien forms he needed to do anything, even defeating a god of destruction, something that Beerus, humiliated, couldn't argue with. And so, without further ado, while Goku and Vegeta prepared to go with Beerus and Whis, the Destroyer, trying to maintain some charisma and aura of domination over the others, would warn Ben that he would train intensely until he surpassed Alien X's power, and that the next time they met, it wouldn't be so easy. Ben found this attitude ridiculous, causing him terrible cringe as it was behavior worthy of an anime character, like those he watched in his world. But in any case, the question remained now that the gods along with Goku and Vegeta had left. How am I going to return to my world? Don't worry, we'll eventually find a solution. Gohan proposed that Ben live with him and his wife for a while if he had no place to stay. Bulma promised to do everything possible to help him return to his dimension, confident that she would eventually succeed. After all, she was a genius and probably one of the smartest beings in this new universe in which Ben Tennyson had appeared. Some months had passed since Ben Tennyson, the young hero from another omniverse, had been dragged into the Dragon Ball franchise. Although everything was disconcerting at first, little by little Ben began to adapt to this new reality, finally accepting Gohan's kind invitation to come live with him and his wife Videl, who would eventually give birth to little Pan. Ben began to grow fond of these people, learning a lot about their entire history, with Gohan telling him all about the adventures they had over the past several decades. And while life carried on with Ben trying to adapt to his new environment, Bulma worked tirelessly on a way to return him to his dimension. However, as Ben started to accept that living in this world might be for the long haul, a new danger would threaten everyone. Through the Dragon Balls, Sorbet and Tagoma, former members of what remained of Frieza's army, had used those magical artifacts to revive their emperor. Frieza, determined to take his revenge, prepared to train for the next 4 months. Eventually, one of those days, Bulma received a visit from her old friend Jaco, who informed her that Frieza, along with his entire army, was approaching Earth, and that in just 1 hour he would be here, ready to exact his revenge on all the Earth's warriors who had contributed directly or indirectly to his previous defeat. In a panic, Bulma gathered as many available warriors as she could, likewise asking Ben for his help. Frieza? That guy you told me about, who was defeated by Goku on Namek and later by a future version of Trunks? How dangerous can this guy be? They literally killed him once already, so surely you won't have any problem doing it again, right? The young man would say, confused by the look of panic on everyone's faces. You have no idea, Ben. We can sense the ki of every living being, and even though Frieza isn't on Earth right now, we can already feel his immense power from a distance. In fact, we can tell he's holding back, and even in that state, he's abysmally stronger than the last time we fought him. So believe me, the situation is very serious, Gohan would say to his new friend. Ben would smile confidently, feeling completely relaxed under these circumstances. Don't worry, if this so-called Frieza isn't more powerful than Beerus, then I can definitely stop him. I don't intend to let the planet be destroyed by another one of those crazy manga villains you have in this world. When it's time to be a hero, I'm always available, the young man would say with confidence and determination. Shortly after, everyone would gather at the place where Frieza's army and the Emperor himself were landing. Frieza emerged from his ship to present himself in his floating chair, sending all his soldiers to attack the warriors. Ben transformed into Accelerate to dodge multiple soldiers, working as support for the weaker members of the team, collaborating in attack combinations with Krillin, Tenshinhan, and Jaco, starting to get to know that Galactic Patrolman a bit better, noticing many similarities between the Galactic Patrol he described and the Plumbers. But eventually, once all the soldiers had fallen, Frieza decided to act. To intimidate everyone and show what he was capable of, he jumped from his floating chair to punch Gohan in the stomach, destroying all his internal organs and stopping his heart instantly, then immediately returning to his floating chair before anyone could react. Hey, you damned lizard! You'll pay for nearly killing my friend! And who are you? I don't recall seeing you before. What's going on? Were you so short of powerful warriors to oppose me that you randomly picked a stranger off the streets of the cities on this pathetic planet? No, my name is Ben Tennyson, and believe me, I'm the last one you'd want to face today. I myself managed to defeat Beerus, and there's no way you're stronger than him, the young man would say with force and determination in his spoken words. What? Lord Beerus? Impossible! You're lying! Frieza would say, frightened. I knew it. You really aren't stronger than him. This will be very easy, the young man would say arrogantly with a confident smile, knowing that this fight was already over. He transformed into Alien X and instantly sent Frieza into the skies and out of the planet, then completely disintegrated him by sending him toward the sun. To everyone's surprise and shock, Ben came back down to Earth, having finished off Frieza in a matter of seconds. Undoubtedly, this wasn't a way of fighting that the Dragon Ball warriors were used to seeing, as they were accustomed to standing around like fools waiting for a villain to transform into their most powerful form. But, luckily for them, Ben was not a manga character, and he didn't care about enjoying a fight, much less if it put Earth in danger. Incredible! I can't believe it! You defeated Frieza as if it were a joke! Honestly, I don't know what surprises you. Maybe I can't sense people's ki like you can, but I know perfectly well how to see when a villain is overly confident, or exaggerating his true power. And it was more than obvious that Frieza would never in his life be stronger than Beerus, and I could defeat Beerus, the young hero would say, contemplative about what had happened. Shortly after, Goku and Vegeta would arrive on Earth, having arrived too late to participate in the fight or defeat Frieza themselves. Damn, we missed it, Vegeta! I imagine it was you, the one with the watch, who did it. I have a name, you know. And why should I care? Vegeta would respond sourly. Everyone would laugh at the situation, while Ben would feel tremendous cringe, but without further ado, they'd all forget about it. Hey, where are Beerus and Whis? The young hero would ask curiously. Well, you're not going to believe it, but Beerus decided to stay on his planet to train alone with Whis. Wow, it really affected him a lot that I defeated him. How funny and ridiculous. Definitely, this world looks too much like an anime or manga, even more exaggerated than Sumo Slammers itself. After those events, life continued its course on Earth, while Bulma continued working hard to find a way to return Ben to his world, something that would be extremely difficult to do. However, what she could do was carefully study the Omnitrix and unlock more of the functions to which Ben still did not have access. After a few months of studying the artifact, Bulma had achieved an incredible upgrade. She had removed the watch's transformation time limiter, shocking Ben that a human woman could be so smart as to do that, wondering if Bulma might even be more intelligent than Azimuth. It was at least a possibility. With this new upgrade, Ben could now practice much longer and more freely with Alien X, which was practically the most useful and well-adapted form to this reality in which he was trapped. Little by little, he began learning how to implement Ki through Alien X, having lost all his reality-altering powers typical of a celestial sapien upon arriving in this new world. Eventually, Beerus would demand that Ben come to his planet, with Ben reluctantly accepting, since the Destroyer wanted to test if, after all the training he'd done in recent months, he could now defeat the boy's most powerful form. But comically and humiliatingly for Beerus, it turned out that no, he still couldn't defeat Alien X, once again being brutally and quickly beaten before the mocking eyes of Whis, with Goku and Vegeta not even beginning to understand the power of that alien of Ben's. They wondered if they would ever be able to reach it, since in this reality, Goku's and Vegeta's motivation to become stronger would not be driven by Beerus' power, but by Alien X's power. Eventually, one of those days when Ben was on Beerus' planet, at the Destroyer's request so he could train with his Alien X form, the group would receive an unexpected visit. That visit was Champa and Vados, the twin siblings of Beerus and Whis respectively, gods of Universe 6. To Ben, the fact that there was another cat like Beerus but now chubby was truly ridiculous. The initial interaction between the characters and the food competition that would take place between the two destroyers would occur the same way as in the original story, and eventually, Goku would come up with the idea of holding a tournament between the two universes with the best warriors they could gather. When all conditions were understood and accepted, Ben would find himself shocked and somewhat annoyed with Goku for having put Earth in danger as the prize that Champa so coveted, if he managed to win, and asked the Super Dragon Balls to move Universe 7's Earth to Universe 6. But without further ado, it was too late. The tournament would take place in about 3 days, with the Saiyans and the hero returning to Earth to look for another 2 participants, with the first 3 obviously being themselves. Beerus had been extremely careful not to tell Champa that Ben had a transformation that made him stronger than all of them, as he might have considered it cheating, which technically it was true. In any case, the next selected warriors would be Piccolo and Majin Buu, although Ben didn't have much faith that Majin Buu could pass the written exam. At least he would be grateful that the Omnitrix had a universal translator function, since for some strange reason, in this world to which he had arrived almost 2 years ago, everyone spoke only Japanese. After all the participating warriors had been chosen, while Bulma created the Super Radar for Super Dragon Balls, Goku and Vegeta would go to train for 3 years in the Room of Spirit and Time, proposing that Ben go train with them. But Ben, terrified at the idea of aging 3 years and 3 days, would refuse the proposal. He already felt quite depressed as it was for having lost 2 years of his life trapped in this world without seeing his friends and family. And so, about 3 days later, everyone would be ready to go to the nameless planet located at the border between Universe 7 and 6 to finally begin that tournament. Beerus would agree with everyone else that Ben would stay as the last warrior to participate if absolutely necessary, and nothing more. Goku and Vegeta would be fine with that, wanting the opportunity to fight against new opponents for a change. Ben was also fine with that plan, knowing that with Atomics or Alien X he could end the tournament right away. The tournament began with Goku being the first to participate, as in the original story, defeating Botamo and then being defeated by Frost Poison. Ben found it extremely stupid once Frost cheating was revealed. How is it possible that an old man with reflexes millions of times faster than the speed of light didn't see that poisonous needle coming from that Frieza knockoff's hand? Ben would ask, dismayed at the nonsensical ridiculousness of this world in which he was trapped. In the end, the whole tournament would proceed the same way as in the original story, with the difference here that Goku and Vegeta were much stronger, thanks to the extra motivation of the existence of someone as strong as Ben, as well as having started their training with Whis from the beginning, and occasionally training with Ben when he visited Beerus' planet. Although it might be that Hit defeated Vegeta due to him completely ignoring Hit's abilities, Goku would use the advantage of having observed the fight to understand and guess what Hit was doing. Moreover, Ben would inform him of his theory about Hit's ability, reminding him a lot of the powers one of his aliens called Clockwork had. Thanks to that, plus the superior power Goku would have, he could defeat Hit relatively easily, especially in this tournament with the restrictions where Hit couldn't use all his assassin abilities. With Goku fully aware of Alien X's power, unlike Monica, he wouldn't give up against Hit, knowing that if Ben entered the tournament now, he would defeat Hit with a single blow, since Ben in his Alien X form was still abysmally superior to Beerus. Thus, Goku would end up being the winner of the tournament. Shortly after the Saiyan raised on Earth's victory, Zeno-sama appeared, introducing himself to the rest of the characters, with his interaction with Goku occurring the same way as in the original story. However, something that would change in that initial introduction was Zeno-sama's hostile reaction toward Ben, knowing perfectly well that he didn't belong in this world. Zeno-sama would say, "You! I don't like you. You shouldn't be here. You're lucky I have no power over you, because if I did, I would have erased you a long time ago," the watermelon-headed being would say with a look worthy of true psychopath, disturbing Ben with the hostility of that child who terrified everyone else. At the same time, Beerus would think about what Zeno-sama said. He had no power over Ben, surely because he came from a completely different multiverse where Zeno-sama had no influence. That information could be useful in the future, the Destroyer would think. After that, and the departure of Zeno-sama in Universe 6, the protagonists of Universe 7, after discovering that the Nameless Planet was the last Super Dragon Ball they needed to find, summoned Super Shenlong. Beerus, to Whis' surprise, asked for the wish to rebuild the Earth of his brother's universe, surprising Ben that he would do such a generous act, not thinking that a selfish and cruel guy like Beerus could do that. It also surprised Whis that Ben had understood them speaking in the language of the gods, and all thanks to the Omnitrix and its universal translator. After those events, life carried on Earth, with Bulma still having no progress or breakthrough on how to return Ben to his world. This began to seriously depress him. Almost 3 years had passed since he left this world. He was growing up, aging, becoming a man, and losing his best years without his friends and family, missing people like Gwen, Grandpa Max, Kevin, and even Rook terribly. One of those days, while visiting Capsule Corporation to see if Bulma had made any advances with his problem, he was surprised to see a huge and strange vehicle in the backyard of the property. And, close by, Bulma and the others were gathered around someone who was visibly unconscious. They all explained to Ben who this person was, shocking him to see that time travel was also possible in this world. Eventually, Trunks woke up by the time Goku had brought him a Senzu bean. Trunks didn't hesitate for a second to attack Goku, confusing him with Black, and only Bulma was able to stop him from his awakened nightmare. Trunks, having apologized to Goku, and after Ben had formally introduced himself to Trunks, amazed by his strange and incredible story, the warrior from the future ended up explaining why he had returned to the past. He explained that it was neither Majin Buu nor any other threat they knew, but rather someone who looked exactly like Goku, called Goku Black by future Bulma. Upon hearing Trunks' accounts, Ben would be terrified by such a future, determined to go to that future to help Trunks, as the hero he was. While the others prepared to go to the future, Beerus and Whis would investigate on their side the strange description of Goku Black's outfit that Trunks gave them, suspecting that it might be Zamasu from Universe 10. Eventually, the time machine would be ready and repaired to go to the future, with Goku, Vegeta, Ben, and Trunks traveling back to that terrible time the hybrid came from. And shortly after arriving in that future, and reuniting with the resistance of what little remained of humanity, they would all be ready to confront Black, especially Ben, who could not stand seeing these people starving and hopeless underground, taking it very personally, something Goku and Vegeta could not understand since they did not have the mentality of a Western superhero. Shortly after causing a commotion, Black would appear in front of them. Although Vegeta really wanted to fight him, Ben would stop him. "Now is not the time to do stupid combat competitions with the villain, Vegeta. This is serious, very serious. Look at what he did to your son's future. We can't take risks. This is not a damn game," the young man would say, furious that the Saiyans did not understand how serious the situation was, failing to empathize or care as much about saving the world as they cared about having a good fight. Ben would transform into Alien X, and before Black could say even a single sentence, Alien X would disintegrate Black instantly, killing him without any more fuss, no pity, or glory. This shocked and surprised Trunks, who still did not know what Ben was capable of. Now better understanding why he insisted so much on going to the future with them if his transformations were that powerful. "No! Damn mortal! What did you do?" Zamasu would arrive at the place, everyone recognizing him from the information Beerus gave them before they went to the future, that he was the one really behind all this. This enraged Ben even more that a god, a supposed god of creation above all else, could commit such an atrocity as almost wiping out humanity. Without hesitation, he tried to give Zamasu the same fate as Black, completely disintegrating him. But to everyone's surprise, for the first time since they had known Ben, Alien X encountered an obstacle. The obstacle that Zamasu was immortal. He had become immortal with the Super Dragon Balls, mocking Ben's pathetic attempt to finish him off just like Black. So your undeserved immortality is the problem, eh? Well then, so be it. Ben would transform into clockwork, using his time manipulation powers to alter Zamasu's timeline, rewinding his body and only his body far enough back in time to when he had not yet made the wish to become immortal.
What the hell did you do? I feel different.
I've simply evened the probability of victory for both of us, and returned you to your natural state. No cheats. After those words, Ben would revert to Alien X and end up completely eliminating Zamasu, who was no longer immortal thanks to the incredible aliens that Ben possessed and the variety of all their abilities. And although everyone would consider that the victory had now been achieved, for Ben this was not a victory, it was a failure. What would be the plan now, Ben thought? Return to the past and leave these future people just like that in the state they were in? That didn't seem fair, Ben thought, determined to restore life and beauty to this world and its humanity. Goku. Once Gohan told me about planet Namek and that they also have Dragon Balls there. Is it possible that this planet and its race still exist in the future, and we can go there to ask for their help? The young hero would ask. It's possible. I remember the direction where they were the last time I teleported there when I went to recruit Dende to be the new Kami-sama. If I concentrate hard enough, I might find them with my instant transmission and take us there. Of course, assuming Black or Zamasu didn't kill them before coming to Earth, the Saiyan would answer. Fortunately, that was not the case. Black was so obsessed and determined to make the planet where Goku was raised suffer that he didn't think to first destroy the rest of the universe's planets. That Zamasu guy really was a true idiot, Ben thought. Together with Goku, they went to New Namek, reuniting with all those Namekians Goku once knew in another timeline. After explaining the entire situation to them, they would certainly agree to help, summoning Porunga and making all the necessary wishes to rebuild all the collateral damage the Earth had suffered since the arrival of Goku Black, revive all the humans he had killed, and in addition, something Goku wouldn't have thought to do, but Ben would, revive all the Z-Warriors who died several decades ago on the day of the android's attack. This surprised Goku, not having considered such a cool wish, and Porunga fulfilled all these wishes without any problem. And so, by the time they returned to Earth, not only had all of human civilization been reconstructed, not only had all the humans killed by Black been revived, but also all the warriors had returned to life. Therefore, through Piccolo, Kami-sama also returned, making the Earth once again have Dragon Balls. This was undoubtedly a huge impact for everyone to return to life after so long, though it would still take efforts to bring back Goku and Gohan, who died for other reasons. Goku from his heart disease, and Gohan dying years later than the first day of the android's attack, as formulated in the wishes said to Porunga. It was still a huge step forward. Now, with the right improvements to Earth's Dragon Balls and the coordinates of New Namek, they did not doubt that, in time, everything could return to normal, or at least as it used to be before Goku died. Everyone was deeply grateful to that strange young man they had just met, who showed unprecedented altruism and heroism in the Dragon Ball world, having thought through every detail to not only defeat the current threat, but also dramatically improve everyone's lives on Earth. They were all profoundly grateful. And so, after that, everyone said goodbye to the revived warriors, with Trunks bringing the present-day Saiyans and Ben back to the past. After staying another day to spend time with his friends of the past and say goodbye to them, it was also time for him to return to his own time, in which all his friends and parents awaited him, also bidding farewell to Ben, eternally grateful to him. Trunks promised he would never forget what he did for his future and that he would always follow his example of heroism. Ben simply felt happy and satisfied after being trapped in this world for so long, having been able to do what he truly loved, saving the world, saving the universe, simply being a hero. After the very expeditious events of the Goku Black saga, Bulma finally gave up on the idea that she might someday return Ben to his world. It was something beyond her, at least the way she had imagined doing it. With the passage of time, Ben had more than enough opportunities to tell everyone all his adventures and stories, including Bulma, who paid special attention to the stories involving the era when Ben wore the Ultimatrix, an alternate Omnitrix partially created and modified by Albedo, an evil copy of Ben, ironically just like Goku Black, which had a feature of evolutionary functionality. It could evolve all the aliens into an ultimate version, the process of a simulated million-year evolutionary process that highlighted all the necessary survival and combat capabilities of that alien. Bulma wondered if she could modify the current Omnitrix that Ben had to re-add that option, so that maybe if Ben activated the ultimate function with Alien X, he would evolve to such a high degree of divinity on the multiversal or even omniversal scales that he could recover his reality-altering powers and thus finally return to his original world. Normally, out of respect for Azimuth, Ben would be against letting someone else modify and alter the Omnitrix, especially after past mistakes like when he turned Kevin into a monster for wanting more power from the Omnitrix to defeat Vilgax, and much less going against the Omnitrix's original idea, a tool that would allow all beings in the universe to better understand each other by putting themselves in one another's shoes. But given the situation and the deep desperation Ben felt about returning to his world, he accepted that Bulma tried to reincorporate the ultimate function for use with Alien X. Although it would take several months to achieve, months during which each time the young man came to visit her, he would notice that she was becoming rounder and rounder, eventually revealing to the young man that she was pregnant with her second baby. He congratulated her on his excellent news, but it also depressed him even more, thinking again about his family, and Kale, wondering if perhaps by now they might have a child too, missing her deeply. One of those days, Goku would visit Capsule Corporation at the same time as Ben, since it turned out Bulma was the only one who could contact Whis directly, so he could take Goku to Beerus planet to train there and keep getting stronger. Bulma called Whis for Goku, with Vegeta refusing the proposal to go to Beerus' planet at that time, since his wife was about to give birth at any moment. When Whis arrived, Goku asked Ben if he wanted to come with him. Since Ben was bored and Bulma assured him that she wouldn't make any more progress on the ultimate function today, he agreed, having nothing better to do. After a few hours of training for Goku and Beerus, who trained with Whis and Alien X respectively, Goku got quite bored with the absence of threats that would challenge him. He was also quite frustrated in this story about hardly ever fighting due to Ben's presence. That made him remember the idea Zeno-sama mentioned some time ago about organizing a tournament between all the universes. He was on the verge of using the button Zeno gave him to go see him and bring up the topic again, which seemed like a terrible idea to everyone, especially Beerus, but also to Ben, who couldn't believe that once again Goku was willing to gamble the lives of the entire multiverse for his own personal pleasure of having combat challenges. Goku, I'm not gonna let you go see Zeno to do something so stupid, he would say firmly. Beerus joined the argument, threatening even to destroy Goku, and although Ben didn't want to go that far, he agreed that he would never allow Goku to do that. Goku tried to trick them by tossing the button into the air to catch it again when it fell, but Alien X could perceive and react to it, catching the button himself and destroying it instantly. Hey, why did you do that? The confused and slow-witted Saiyan would say. To preserve the lives of all the innocents who live in this multiverse whose fates you were about to gamble with, he would respond. Goku would be deeply disappointed, but eventually accepted that maybe it wasn't the best idea in the world after some reflection. Even so, Ben was very annoyed and furious with Goku for wanting to take those risks, definitely losing all patience with the Saiyan. Enough! I can't take it anymore! I can't stand your way of being, Goku! I was always known for being arrogant and taking too many unnecessary risks, as well as being selfish, but you! Oh my god, you're on a whole different level! So I say, enough is enough. I'm trapped in this world where literally a bunch of very powerful and crazy people are willing to destroy the multiverse to have a bit of fun. You're all truly sick, every one of you. And thus, frustrated by the environment that made up the only company he had in this world, Ben transformed into Alien X and returned to Earth, having copied and replicated the teleportation technique with Ki long ago. Meanwhile, Beerus, although understanding the boy's point, remained disappointed that they hadn't been able to finish their battle because of that idiot Goku. From then on, Ben would isolate himself even more, waiting for only one thing, that Bulma would finally implement the ultimate function into his new Omnitrix, and see if at last he could return to his own world as Ultimate Alien X. The months went by, and Ben's frustration at being stuck in the world of Dragon Ball grew more and more evident. Although Bulma was tirelessly working on adding the ultimate function to the Omnitrix, the process was slow and required delicate adjustments to ensure that everything worked without destroying the device or endangering Ben. Meanwhile, the hero had distanced himself from the main group, exhausted by the constant rivalries, unnecessary risks, and the lack of empathy for the innocent lives he valued so much. Even Gohan did not exactly share the same definition of heroism as Ben. It seemed that this world had its own concept of what it meant to be a hero, one that was more pragmatic, rational, yet also empathetic toward the entire world. One day, while Ben was reviewing the progress Bulma had made on activating the ultimate function in the Omnitrix, a surprising visit arrived at the doors of Capsule Corporation. Jacko, the galactic patrolman with whom Ben had collaborated in the past, arrived alongside Beerus, seeking the urgent help of Ben and the others. Jacko explained that a dangerous villain, Moro, had escaped from the galactic prison after 10 million years of confinement. Moro was an ancient sorcerer with the power to consume a planet's life force. At that moment, he was heading toward new planet Namek, presumably to gather the Dragon Balls and ask Porunga to restore all his ancient magic, or possibly even his youth as well. Who knew? Goku and Vegeta were summoned immediately, with Ben feeling reluctant for them to intervene given their tendency to put others' lives at risk for the thrill of a good challenge. Fortunately, Bulma managed to convince him to tolerate and work with them once again. Together with Beerus and Jacko, they headed to the Galactic Patrol's main headquarters. Beerus explained the magnitude of the threat Moro posed. The villain had already regained much of his power and was heading toward the new Namek system, seeking the Dragon Balls to wish for the full restoration of his youth and energy. Without wasting time, the group traveled to the planet to stop him. Goku, after sensing an intense chill from detecting Moro's evil ki, focused on another ki source to use instant transmission, taking Vegeta and Ben along. Upon arriving at New Namek, Ben was shocked by the level of destruction Moro had already wrought. Entire villages lay in ruins, and the remaining Namekians were struggling desperately to survive. Goku and Vegeta confronted Moro, attempting to face him at full power, but they soon realized the sorcerer was not only physically strong, he also had magical abilities that drained their life force and converted it into his own power. Ben, watching the battle, understood that Moro wasn't an enemy that brute force could defeat. Transforming into atomics, he tried to counter Moro's energy absorption with his ability to generate pure nuclear energy, but even that wasn't enough. With centuries of experience, Moro managed to manipulate and redirect Atomics' energy, weakening him. In the end, fed up with these antics and fearing for the Namekians' lives and for the planet itself, given Moro's dangerous abilities, Ben took a risk and transformed into Alien X, hoping his power would be so extreme that Moro wouldn't be able to absorb it. And in a certain way, Ben was right. Alien X's power was too high, and luckily it was purely brute force, given that Ben had lost his original reality-altering powers when he arrived in that world. Otherwise, Moro would have been truly terrifying. At the same time, Alien X still retained part of the unique abilities that made him who he was, like infinite energy and constant regeneration if anyone managed to inflict any damage, which almost never happened, even in a universe as crazy as the one Ben found himself in. Eventually, and in fact very quickly, Moro simply exploded like a gigantic balloon, overwhelmed far too rapidly by the power beyond even Beerus' level that Alien X possessed. The sorcerer couldn't handle that much power without having fully recovered his magic and youth yet. After defeating Moro, Ben transformed into clockwork to reverse all the physical damage caused by Moro before it happened, including healing the surviving Namekians' wounds and bringing back those who had died. It was a pretty wild power, far beyond what people in the world of Dragon Ball were used to seeing. When they arrived on the planet, Beerus and Jacko were relieved to see that the threat had been neutralized, and better still, that all the damage and deaths caused by the sorcerer had been undone. Beerus was astounded by the incredible abilities and power Ben's transformations granted him. Following those events, Goku and Vegeta teleported away upon realizing they had nothing more to contribute and returned to Beerus' planet to continue training with Whis, while Ben went back to the Galactic Patrol's main headquarters along with Beerus and Jacko. They offered to take him back to Earth, but for now, Ben didn't want to return. He needed to rediscover his purpose in life and reconnect with his foundations, the foundations of true heroism from his own world. If he could fulfill that purpose by working with the Galactic Patrol, that's what he would do for a while. Though he knew that for Bulma's research on how to activate the ultimate function in the Omnitrix to continue, he would eventually have to return to Earth. Jacko and Beerus happily agreed to have Ben help protect the galaxy and even the universe with his incredible powers and abilities. time passed, and during that period, Ben traveled around the universe, mainly with Beerus, helping all sorts of race as best he could, and in the process scanning their DNA to add it to the Omnitrix's database. At some point, Beerus asked why he had never scanned Goku's or Vegeta's DNA to become a Saiyan, to which Ben replied that he wasn't interested in transforming into that race if it meant becoming as illogical, irrational, and selfish as he was when he was a child. Little by little, Ben's sadness over being trapped in that world caused him to behave more like his first future version that he'd met when he was little, the original Ben 10,000. During this time, Ben and Beerus obviously trained together as well, with Alien X holding his own on par with the Angel, who eventually revealed his true identity to Ben. Ben wasn't too surprised, while Beerus was shocked to see that Alien X was an opponent even for Angels. Albeit, in fairness, he was likely the weakest Angel of them all. But Ben's enormous advantage over Beerus was that Ben could use his most powerful form without restrictions or fear of being erased for using his power, as was the case with Beerus. Thanks to that, the Patrol could afford to send Ben on far more dangerous missions than usual, and the galaxy's most dangerous criminals began to fear the Galactic Patrol, seeing that now they operated more effectively and no longer overlooked their crimes thanks to the new superpowered patrolmen they'd recruited. This eventually led to the Patrol, backed by Ben's tremendous power, daring even to confront the Heaters, sending him with Beerus' support to put a stop to them or arrest them. Some of them were easier to arrest, while others, specifically Gas, were easier to eliminate. Even without having wished to become the strongest in the universe yet, Gas was already too powerful to be contained in the Galactic Patrol's cells, so Ben ended up taking him out. And just when Ben and Beerus had finished their work, Granola showed up there, coincidentally arriving at the Heater's base to request a new job. Surprised and shocked to see that the Galactic Patrol had finally stopped them, Granola lamented that now he himself would likely be arrested for having worked with them, but Ben intervened, asking him to explain. Granola introduced himself to them both, explaining his entire story, or at least the story he believed to be true, while Beerus backed up some of what he said to Ben with the data they had in the Patrol's archives. Ben, disturbed by hearing such a sad story and reminded once again of how horrible and heartless Saiyans could be, decided to help Granola however he could, traveling with him to Planet Cereal while Beerus handled taking the surviving Heaters to the Galactic Patrol cells. Upon arriving at Planet Cereal, Granola was confused. He had no idea what Ben could do to make up for the fact that his entire race had been wiped out more than 40 years ago. That was until Ben transformed into Clockwork, using an immense temporal power he had never used before to reverse time on the planet itself, and to be clear, only on the planet. The time effect was limited only to that area, not space as a whole. Clockwork restored the planet and its inhabitants to the exact point they were at one day before the Saiyans invaded and annihilated them. However, once again, Ben had only reversed time, not space. That meant people like Gas or Bardock were not there, as they had died elsewhere rather than on Planet Cereal. Granola was stunned by Ben's colossal power, and Monaito was just as surprised to see that he had grown younger by a few decades. At the same time, he was shocked when a confused Musli, Granola's mother, suddenly showed up at his door, alive again out of nowhere, along with all the Cerealians. They began to emerge from their graves like living dead, confused and terrified by such a surreal situation. Ben simply laughed, telling Granola that he was gonna have to give his people a lot of explanations, while the mercenary was left speechless, not knowing what to say to Ben. He thanked him deeply for what he had done, feeling indebted to him for all eternity, but Ben told him not to worry about it and encouraged him to see his mother as soon as possible, with Granola wasting no time in reuniting with the mother he had missed so much. Before Ben left the planet, he looked out over the scenery, admiring the beauty of a world regaining its vitality and the people who had been lost so long ago. He felt happy and satisfied with such a heroic deed, worthy of his past exploits. Afterwards, he departed the planet and returned to the Galactic Patrol, transformed into Rook as he traveled. Following that great heroic act, time passed once again, and eventually Ben decided it was time to return to Earth to see the progress Bulma had made on the Omnitrix's ultimate function. He also wanted to check on how Gohan and his family were doing, especially little Pan, who must have grown a lot since the last time he'd seen her. But upon arriving on Earth, he found Piccolo fighting a strange being who, according to what everyone was saying, was an android similar to androids 18 and 19. Ben stepped in to help the Namekian, transforming into Atomics, prompting Gamma 2 to flee the fight upon realizing they were completely outmatched. From there, Piccolo and Ben discreetly followed Gamma 2 until they infiltrated the new secret base of the Red Ribbon Army, disguised as soldiers of that same organization. When they reached the meeting between Magenta and Dr. Hedo, Piccolo and Ben learned the true nature of the Gammas and the Cell Max project. Once they left that meeting, Piccolo was about to call Bulma so she could warn Goku and Vegeta on Beerus' planet, but Ben stopped him, saying that if Goku and Vegeta came to help, it would be even more dangerous than if they did not. Piccolo understood Ben's point, though he still felt Ben might be exaggerating somewhat. At the same time, with Ben around, who had an alien form stronger than even Beerus, there wasn't much reason to worry. Plus, during the Red Ribbon Army meeting they had snuck into, Ben felt profound frustration and anger listening to Gamma 1 and 2 talk about heroism and how they consider themselves superheroes. From Ben's perspective, that was absurd to even consider. This once again reinforced his disgust at how differently this world perceived heroism compared to him, and he decided enough was enough with all these infiltration tricks. He told Piccolo they should stop or destroy whatever that Cell Max project was, while he would take on the Gammas, transforming into Alien X for the occasion. Immediately, the entire base went on maximum alert, and the Gammas went to fight Alien X, who was quite surprised by their strength, deeming them equal to Goku and Vegeta in terms of power. However, it was nothing intimidating to him at all, considering he was an opponent who could stand up to even the weaker angels of the multiverse, even without the extra reality-altering powers he lost upon arriving in this world. Effortlessly, Alien X defeated the Gammas, berating them for being imposters and frauds and calling themselves superheroes when they had no idea what it truly means to be a superhero. He demonstrated with numerous arguments and indisputable evidence that they had in fact been on the wrong side all along. Even then, they couldn't call themselves superheroes because a true superhero works to protect the world and save innocent lives, not fight the strongest opponents like some lunatic. Not long after, the Gammas surrendered to the overwhelming physical and moral defeat dealt by Alien X. Meanwhile, Piccolo had stopped Magenta and Dr. Hedo. The former tried desperately to activate Cell Max, but Piccolo prevented it and ended up destroying the entire underground base, disintegrating Cell Max's inanimate body and preventing his birth or early awakening, thus stopping the events of Dragon Ball Super Superhero from that point on. Piccolo returned to Ben, finding that the Gammas had completely surrendered and were apologizing for everything they had done, convincing their creator, Dr. Hedo, that they should have joined the opposing side all along to be the true superheroes they had always wanted to be. Hedo finally agreed to stop working for the Red Ribbon Army while Magenta was apprehended by Ben and Piccolo, who handed over all the evidence needed to incriminate him for running a pharmaceutical company in secret as the Red Ribbon Army and developing its evil projects. After that, there wasn't much left for Ben to do to occupy his mind. Along with the Galactic Patrol, he had already resolved most of the universe's most significant and dangerous conflicts, and on Earth it didn't seem like new threats would emerge anytime soon, so all he could do was wait, as he had done for so many years now. But eventually, one day, shortly before a new World Martial Arts tournament that Goku absolutely insisted on participating in for some strange reason, Bulma suddenly shouted out in joy in the middle of her laboratory, immediately calling everyone to gather at Capsule Corporation for some big news. It turned out that Bulma had finally solved all the mysteries of the Omnitrix's evolutionary mechanism, allowing her to finally implement the ultimate function. So once everyone had gathered there with Ben to witness the modification live, Ben watched in awe as his Omnitrix underwent a tremendous update and transformation, growing and merging even more with his arm. It now much more closely resembled the Omnitrix of his adult future self, although with more white and green rather than black and white. He checked afterward to make sure the Omnitrix still worked properly, confirming that he indeed still had master control and access to all his aliens without any problem. Then came the moment of truth, something Ben hadn't done in years. He was going to activate Ultimate Mode, first testing it on none other than Humongosaur, once again gaining his characteristic evolved giant turtle form with cannon fists, and then continuing to test it on the rest of his best-known transformations. Eventually, after several tests, he felt ready to try that function on Alien X, which should theoretically evolve him to such a high level of existential awareness that he would instantly regain all his powers lost upon arriving in this world, and finally be able to return to his own. Of course, before that could happen, Beerus and Whis arrived on Earth to witness Ben one last time. Beerus, having trained like a maniac over all those years to be ready to defeat Alien X, challenged him to one final battle. Reluctantly, and for the last time, Ben indulged Beerus' anime character whims, transforming into Alien X to start. They both left planet Earth, traveling to a central empty point in the universe to begin their inconceivably large-scale battle, unleashing unparalleled power with each blow and attack. Alien X had adapted quite well to the kind of ki-based abilities in this world, which allowed him to give Beerus a far better technical fight than he did before. What's more, Ben had grown up. He was now a man over 25 years old, so his body and his aliens had reached their absolute prime in terms of maximum efficiency. He was at the best point in his life to be as powerful as possible with his transformations. Without a doubt, Beerus had stepped up his game since meeting Ben, being enormously stronger than he was some years before. Now, Beerus could rival Alien X's physical power, which meant rivaling even the Angels, if the Angels were allowed to fight. Beerus was extremely happy because he felt satisfied with having worked so hard to achieve that power. Even so, his curiosity was immense. He wanted to see Alien X's full power, to see the ultimate function in all its glory. So, as a send-off, Ben agreed to the request and activated Ultimate Mode on Alien X, becoming Ultimate Alien X. His body turned white instead of black, and the stars inside him became black points instead of white. He grew in size to the point that he even surpassed the size of Zalama or Super Shenron. Beerus, Whis, and all the other beings in the multiverse, including the Grand Minister, were left speechless as they could physically see parts of Ben's body everywhere in the universe. All 12 universes now looked so small to Ben that he could have caught them in his hands if he wanted to. Ben had regained all the powers of a celestial sapien, but even more so, he'd evolved them to a level of understanding he couldn't have imagined before. He comprehended absolutely everything, obtaining every possible answer. He finally knew what all of this was about. With no further ado, by blinking just once, he defeated Beerus, sending him flying across the multiverse until he landed unconscious at Zeno's doorstep. Completely beaten, but oddly happy at finally knowing what it felt like to be an ant before a true god. Meanwhile, back on Earth, everyone else watched everything with incredulity and disbelief. There was nothing above Ben at that moment. No goal, no power, no transformation beyond him. It didn't matter if Goku and Vegeta trained for more years than all universes that existed non-stop. They would never be able to reach such immeasurable power. Ben manifested a small human-scale clone of himself on Earth to say farewell to everyone and thank them for hosting him in their world for so long, especially Gohan, Videl, and Pan, with whom he had the closest bond and affection. He told them that despite everything, it had been fun while it lasted. Ben finally bade everyone farewell and, with a single snap of fingers the size of an entire universe, teleported back to his own world, happy and eager to finally see all his friends and family again, wondering if he would at last be able to fulfill that great journey across the universe with Rook that he had promised before arriving in the world of Dragon Ball.